Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all that good stuff. Here we go again. Before I begin, I want to say thanks again to all those that give me your time and attention in these videos. I know a lot of these subjects is out there, but they're out there but necessary. So I appreciate your time and attention, appreciate your interaction, and keep it coming, and I'm going to keep it coming. With that, please subscribe because your subscriptions will help me do what I would like to do, which was actually compensate you all and pay you for watching these videos as a show of gratitude that I appreciate you sitting with me as I talk about all this wacky stuff, but true stuff. So with that, this one, I'm going to tap dance on this one because of the algorithm. The YouTube algorithm, you can't really talk about the Roni Rona and the Jizab, you know. So I'm going to do my best to complete this video in a way that fits the algorithm and still doesn't compromise the integrity of the topic. So this topic is the pandemic was caused deliberately, didn't just happen, to save the planet. And I'm going to go into detail about that. So with that, in the prior video, I mentioned how 2019 was probably more important than any of the 2020s, 2020, 2021, 2022. The reason why I said that, because in 2019, you had more political unrest than any time, anywhere on planet Earth. Every corner of the globe, people in different countries and pretty much all continents except Antarctica was unhappy with their government. They took to the streets. They was making their voice heard, and that's something called populism. Populism is when people of a country or nation, they rise up, they voice their concerns, and they're extremely dissatisfied with their government and the politics of their government. So that was one of the major reasons in 2019 why this pandemic was caused. Another reason that a lot of people don't touch on why this was caused deliberately and why they had to come up with something scary to say is killing people, which there's no evidence for, is because they wanted to save the planet. Now, when I say they, anytime I say they, I'm talking about a power structure that is organized and has been organized for centuries. And they realized back in the 70s, well, before I get to the 70s, 2019 is also important because around July 2019, there's something called Earth Overshoot Day. Around July, they had, it's like an audit, right? Overshoot means when the growth outweighs the limits that something can handle that growth, you have an overshoot. So overshoot, basically, when it comes to this subject, is saying that there's growth happening on this planet, and that growth over a certain amount of time is going to exceed the limits that planet Earth can handle. In July of 2019, they had something called Earth Overshoot Day. And Earth Overshoot Day basically is an audit where they take inventory of planet Earth and its resources. And one of the things that they discovered was that it takes 1.75 Earths, that's almost 2 planet Earths. It takes 1.75 Earths to sustain the resources of 1 planet Earth. That means that Earth and its inhabitants was utilizing almost twice as many resources as the entire planet can contain. And that if they didn't curtail this by December 31st of 2019, it would be major catastrophes for the planet. It was an extreme, not even a state of emergency, it was a planet of emergency. So look up Earth Overshoot 2019 and you'll see what I'm talking about. And they gave a date, December 31st, 2019, that if drastic measures wasn't taken, I'm not going to say Earth was done, but Earth was done. What happened on December 31st, 2019? That's when the World Health Organization, WHO, announced the Casper virus, right? The Roni Rona out there in Asia. coincidence, right? Because I'm dealing with the algorithm. I can't go too far the virus rabbit hole or the jabby jab rabbit hole. But the same date that they said this planet was pretty much doomed was the same date that they officially released that this was a serious threat that the whole world should look out for, right? Let's just say it's a coincidence. Now, why was the pandemic caused then? How does this relate to the pandemic? The reason why that's important is because 50 years ago, they realized, the government, these institutions, the people with power, they got together and they realized that Earth was facing a serious crisis. And I touched on this in the video in regards to overpopulation. And they commissioned some studies. The Club of Rome, look up the Club of Rome. They commissioned some studies that at the rate Earth was going and at the rate human beings were going, the growth of human beings is going to outpace Earth. So basically, you could only cut down a certain amount of trees. You could only fish for so much. You could only sustain our way of life the way we've been living it, but so long before the Earth starts to turn against us. So when they realized this back in the 70s, they ran 12 scenarios, about 12 scenarios, computer-generated scenarios of what could possibly happen. And when they did this, they realized that if they don't take action, the Earth is going to take action. If they do take action, then maybe it's a possibility that they could thwart disaster. Fast forward to where we're at now. Now, again, how does this relate to the pandemic? The reason why this pandemic had to happen, like I said, is because if it didn't happen, the Earth was done, we was done. So what they did was they came up with the Rona, and after they came up with the Rona, what came with that was we had to change our habits because in their view, overpopulation and overreaching of resources is a threat to the planet. So they had to come up with a way to slow our habits down. So they came up with something, social distancing. And they came up with us wearing masks. And they forced us to stay home with a lockdown. Well, not forced. They put it out there and we agreed to the contract to obey. So therefore, by us obeying, we agreed to be locked down, right? So let me not say they forced us. We agreed to the propaganda, and because we agreed, we was locked down. Now, when that happened, the planet got a chance to open up. You had animals come out in different parts of the world where you didn't even see them come out. You had like all type of wild monkeys running in the street. You had dolphins in places and sea animals in places where there shouldn't be sea animals. Animals were roaming free, right? They were no longer as caged up because human beings was indoors and they was consuming less. You also had clear skies in places like Cali, and the air was cleaner. You had the less cars, right? You had clear interstate, clear freeways because everybody was indoors. Now, what this did was slow the planet down. And slowing the planet down, it actually fit with the plan and the agenda that they mapped out 50 years ago. Because if they didn't do this at that time, when they came up with this Rona, then all type of stuff would have happened to this planet. So that is the reason why they caused this pandemic, was to slow our habits down. So now you're in the point to where if you have to go out and wear your mask and you have to socially distance, it makes you more cognizant of your behavior and what you use. This is important because the whole agenda is to make sure that we exist on this planet but still remain junkies. So in their view, human beings are outpacing what they produce, right? And in their view, the earth is finite. It can only sustain up to a certain amount. So if we keep consuming like we're consuming, they say that we're 60% above resource level, 60% past our capacity, 1.75 Earths to 1 Earth. So in the minds of the people that run this place, that has to be stopped. Now, if you're a spiritual person, you know there's a problem with that. There's a problem with that because Earth has a way of sustaining itself, period. And there is no such thing as overpopulation. There is no such thing as over-consuming in a natural world. However, when you live in a world that's artificial and you live in a world like we do where our consumption is crazy and we're always asking and taking in things that we're told that we need, that artificial environment creates a situation where they're destroying the planet. So in actuality, what's going on is that these people, these corporations, institutions, government, individuals that run this planet have created these products and these services, and they have made more convenient things available for us to consume. In our agreeing and addiction and use of these things, we have become junkies. And in becoming junkies, we're constantly looking to consume as much as possible to be as comfortable as possible. When you have this type of scenario, it creates a situation where you're draining the resources of the planet. In their minds, they're seeing us as consuming too much and not producing. Therefore, they have to limit the amount of people, which is population control, right? Get rid of some people and limit people's movements. That's how the people that run this are looking at it. When in actuality, if you stop coming up with all of this crap that we use, and I'm guilty as well, and if people was to actually curb their habits, that's the ultimate way to save the planet. But instead, what they're doing is they keep creating all this technology. They keep coming up with rapid building and properties and real estate. And so they're keeping us like junkies. So this pandemic was a way for them to keep us addicted, but slowing us down. Because they're not going to get rid of creating all of these things because of the amount of profit that they're making giving us this stuff. So while they're keeping us hooked on technology, keeping us hooked on all of these services, they had to find a way to keep us like junkies at the same time save the planet. That's why you hear go green. That's why you get beat in the head with climate change. That's why you get beat in the head with electric vehicles. Why Elon Musk is on paper the richest man on the planet, even though he's a puppet. Because all of these people that you see with all of these billions that they promote, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, they're all puppets to individuals that control them, that actually own the resources, which is these bloodline families, right? And I'm not going to spend time naming them. So all of these things that they tell us in the media that we need is because they figured out that if they didn't make a change and they didn't become proactive in curbing our habits and curbing our behavior, then they were also doomed because we share this planet with them. So with this pandemic, now you have a situation where you're more apt to stay home, you work from home, you consider ordering online, and you start to prioritize your consumption. So this was a move to save the planet, but save the planet in a dysfunctional way because it's still keeping us hooked, but just in a more conservative way. And that's what all of this is about. So during the 70s, when the Club of Rome ran these studies, they came up with the concept of overshoot. And they said that you can only catch a certain amount of fish before the fish run out. You can only cut a certain amount of trees down before the trees just stop growing because of overconsumption. So when they figured that out, ever since the 70s, they've been on a mad dash of curtailing the population, and they've been on a mad dash to figure out how to get people to change what they're doing. So this is what we're dealing with. So anytime, and this is why when you see, for instance, they say the Rona numbers is declining, but yet wear your mask. Less people are dying of the Rona, but still socially distanced. The reason why you're still seeing this in the news is because it's not just about this Casper virus, right, which they can't prove exists. This is about a changing of your habits. The cases, if this was real, which it's not, the cases could be zero. They would still push you to wear your mask. They would still push you to socially distance. And they would still push you and push to order online because they have to get you to consume in a more organized fashion. It can't be reckless consumption. And this is also why they're changing these cities into digital cities, because with the digital cities, you now have less autonomy to move about how you want. Now you have to move according to a grid, and you have to move according to a tracking system. All of this is because in the 70s they mapped out these scenarios on Earth, and if they didn't make these kind of changes, these executive decisions, then all of us was done. Now, why do I say also this was planned in advance? If you get a chance, look up something called Crimson Contagion. Crimson Contagion was a bunch of exercises that took place from January and I think till August of 2019 here in America. It was 12 member states that took part in this drill, New York being one of them. And in these drills, they went into like offices, medical facilities, and different areas, and they practiced social distancing. They ran a drill based on a scenario of what would happen if some new virus came out of China and then it impacted the world. And they ran drills in order to run responses and test runs in reaction to if such a scenario took place. That's what Crimson Contagion is. And that's something that happened in 2019, way before, not way before, but the same year as Casper virus. So for these 8 months, they ran these drills for scenario of a virus coming out of China to harm the planet. That's no coincidence. And then right after that, they had two things that happened. They had Event 201. Event 201, Johns Hopkins University, same thing. They ran a drill similar to Crimson Contagion. And then in Wuhan, they had the Wuhan Olympic Games, right? So all of this is showing that they, for now on, you cannot operate freely to the capacity that you're going to do what you want in terms of consumption. That's why they're pushing you towards electric, and they're pushing you towards slow down activity. So keep this in mind. So there is no more normal. The new normal is that you have to consume in a way that's going to be compatible with the agenda, with also keeping you addicted to this technology. Anything electric is good for the planet, but it's not good for living organisms. This is why you'll see cattle dying, right? This is why you'll see birds dying. This is why you'll see animals dying out of nowhere, is because of all this electrical pollution that we have going on. And this is also why you have an increase in diabetes. One reason, increase in heart attacks, an increase in all of these diseases is because there's more technology on this planet than ever before. And if you look, since the invention of the telegram, there has been an increase in all of these diseases. Prior to the telegram, heart attacks was rare. It was virtually non-existent. Same with diabetes, same with pneumonia, same with all of these. In fact, if you look at the leading causes of death now and compare it with the leading causes of death starting back from 1850, before they had all this technology, you will see none of these top 10 diseases that you have now is on that list. Why? Because we didn't have no radio waves and radio frequencies. We didn't have all of this. Every time they increase, out the blue pops up a bunch of deaths and a bunch of diseases. 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, coming up 5G. So this is what we're dealing with. How do you live with this poison without killing the planet? And this is why this pandemic is here. This is a scenario, an exercise around the world to readjust the planet's ecosystem, right? So you're going to see a restructuring of this entire planet to set it up in a way in which you could still be a junkie and still be poisoned, but the planet still goes on. If this fails, another alternative is going to space. That's one of the alternatives that these people that have this power, that run these think tanks like the Club of Rome, the Bilderberg Group, the CDC, the World Health Organization, the World Economic Council. All of these meetings with all of these people are constantly to see how they can stay afloat from upcoming catastrophes that they've already mapped out 50 years ago. So when you see in space, when you see all these people rushing to go to space, these are alternatives that's been mapped out for decades. That if all else fails and we can't save the planet, those with the resources to be able to go to space will go to space and leave everyone else that don't have those resources here to fend for ourselves while this planet dies. This is why you're seeing space exploration in the news. Period. It's not some great achievement for mankind. It's these individuals that's running this place to escape this planet if the planet destroys itself, right? This is how they operate. The thing is, these people never went to space, right? That's phony because you can't escape this place physically. You could only do it through what's called merkabas or spiritual vessels, right? That's why you have things like astral projection and things like that. Not to go too far off the deep end, but that's why you're going to keep getting beat in the head with these people going to space. And that's why they're going to say, oh, the first flight to space is going to cost this much. You know, they make it appealing. Those are codes. That's just a communication system they have amongst themselves to say, this thing goes and this planet gets destroyed. We up out of here. We're going to leave everybody else here to get killed. That's it. So this is why the pandemic was created. In a nutshell, the pandemic was created in order to save the planet while destroying us at the same time, if that makes sense. Keep us addicted and keep us like digital crackheads and keep us into a digital matrix with a digital currency, become digital humans with the jabby jab, with these digital smart cities that they're building, while at the same time not destroying this planet so that we all can still survive. And in order to do that, you got to decrease the population, make us digitized human beings by putting this stuff in us to make us hooked up to this technology, and also slowing down our habits by putting on masks and socially distancing and staying at home more, right? They really want you to stay home. They don't want you to go outside, okay? And that's what this pandemic was for, to condition you to not go outside. That's why you have these food shortages, because they mapped out that at the rate that we're consuming, everything was going to be scarce. So now they're putting all type of shortages in your face to let you know something that they already mapped out in the 70s. Now they're putting it in your face. This is 50 years old, right? So all of these manufactured food shortages, all of these high gas prices, all of these things is there. So when you see it, you automatically is like, wow, I can't do anything. Let me chill out. And once you chill out, the mission is accomplished. They can start implementing the smart cities, and then they can start slowing you down, and then they can save the planet. They can slow down the catastrophe, and then they can keep feeding you this poison, but feed it to you in a controlled method where you're not out of control, and they can monitor your consumption. And this is why the pandemic was created. This is why the Rona, which is false, was also created and pumped in our head, was for these purposes. So with that, thank you for tuning in. Much appreciated for the attention. Please subscribe, like, comment, give your feedback, because the feedback is good. And we'll keep them coming. Peace.